50% of the English language is composed of just 100 words, which means that knowing the most important words can go a long way in learning a language. This video is for those who are learning Portuguese and want a basic working vocabulary to get started speaking quickly, as without a basic vocabulary, speaking and listening is impossible. I'm just tired of teachers giving students words that they'll never end up using. And you know what words I'm talking about, like apple and cat and to swim. Whatever, like those three words I rarely use in Portuguese. So I made a list of words that are very useful in everyday conversation, not just words that seem basic but are never used. This is so that you can get started speaking and practicing with real people quickly. Here is how this is going to work. I will briefly put up a screen with the words I want you to memorize and their translations. Some of these words will have asterisks near them, and after that screen is up, I will explain the words with asterisks a little further so that confusion is avoided. I have also divided the words into different categories so that the video flows a little bit more smoothly. First, we have greetings and goodbyes. Oi, olá, tudo bem? Como você está? Tchau. Next, we have nouns. Hoje, frase, palavra, palavrão, sotaque, isso, pessoa, tempo, noite, dia, amanhã, ontem, nome, semana, ano, mês, português, inglês, língua, hora, lugar, problema, cidade, música, artista, álbum, cultura, ideia, mente. And the inverse of nouns, which are verbs. I've conjugated the irregular ones for you. You are welcome. Comer, cozinhar, ouvir, falar, começar, eu faço, ele faz, eu fiz, ele fez, jantar, almoçar, eu vou, você vai, eu fui, ele foi, entender, tentar, eu estou, você está, eu estava, você estava, morar, aprender, concordar, esquecer, esperar, trabalhar, pronunciar, traduzir, responder, perguntar, dormir, você tem, eu tenho, eu tinha, você tinha, usar, mostrar, parecer, parar, ensinar, acordar, enviar, viajar, ajudar, sair, comprar, ganhar, perder, eu sei, você sabe, assistir, mudar, escolher, melhor, pior, ficar. Okay, so for the word melhor, I'm just going to give you some basic phrases just so that you can wrap your head around this word a little bit. I am getting better becomes eu estou melhorando. And he got better would become ele melhorou. And for this verb, you treat it as if it ends in AR. For pior, it's exactly the same as melhor, just it has the opposite meaning. So if I wanted to say I'm getting worse, eu estou piorando. Or he got worse, ele piorou. And same with melhor, you just treat it as if it ends in an AR. For the word ficar, it's really confusing at first. It means either to stay or to be, and it kind of doesn't make sense at first when you would use ficar and when you would use ser, but after a while and after you practice with the language enough, you'll start to find the pattern. I don't know how to explain it, but you'll understand what I mean once you get to that point. And finally, we have the last elementary component of a sentence, which are the adjectives. Feliz, triste, animado, bom, ruim, terrível, quente, frio, agradável, rápido, outra, certo, cansado, diferente, difícil, fácil, bonito, mais, menos, grande, pequeno, perto, longo, ocupado, barato, caro, rico, pobre, útil, divertido, importante, forte, calma. And very similar to adjectives, we have adverbs. Infelizmente, agradecidamente, tomara, exatamente, provavelmente, bem. Now we have conjunctions, ou, e, então, mais. And very closely related to conjunctions are subordinating conjunctions. Se, quando, antes, desde, porque. And here are some words that you use to express interest. Gostar, precisar, odiar, amar, eu quero, você quer. And this is kind of a weird category. I would consider them adjectives or adverbs, but they don't really fit in my head as adjectives or adverbs, so I just kind of labeled them as descriptors, but you'll see what I mean. Meu, minha, sua, seu, para mim, uma, o, a, qualquer, aqui, lá, agora, do, te, da, esse, essa, toda, todo, logo. Penultimately, we have particular phrases that really helped me when I was learning Portuguese. Mais ou menos, come suas verduras? Eu acho que, sem problemas. Oi, tudo bem? So I used to say come suas verduras when I was speaking to my friend in Rio because it was just so hard for me to learn Portuguese at first. So it translates to eat your vegetables, which is what you tell kids because, you know, it's good for you, but they hate it. That's what I was doing. I hated it at first because it was so hard, but it was really good for me because I got really good really quickly. And oi, tudo bem is the most common introduction in Brazil. So you're gonna hear that a lot, so get used to it. Finally, we have miscellaneous things that don't really have a category. Não, sim, comigo, muito, com certeza, por favor, obrigado, deveria, poderia, faz sentido, tipo, interessante, que, onde, legal, quantos, para, como, também, já, ainda, sobre, até, às vezes, cada, sem, porquê, só, sempre, claro, quem, qual, quase, brincadeira, a gente. Entendi or não entendi, eu juro, talvez. A gente is very useful for conjugation because you just treat it as a third person singular. If you want a more detailed explanation, here's a link to one of my videos where I explain all of this, but this is a very, very useful thing to use when you first learn Portuguese in replacement for nós, which means the same thing. Entendi or não entendi can be translated as like I see or I understand or I'm not understanding. So if the person you're talking to says something and you understand, you're like, oh, I get it now. You can say like entendi. But if they say something you're like you have no idea what they just said, you say não entendi. And then, you know, they'll hopefully repeat it for you. Eu juro is like I promise. So like you're telling a story and somebody else is like, no way that happened. You can be like, eu juro, like I promise it happened. Or like when you're talking about plans for the future, like I want to go to Brazil, I can say that to a Brazilian and they'd be like, oh, no way you want to come here. Be like, eu juro, like I promise I want to go. Talvez. So the meaning of talvez is maybe, but the way you use it in Portuguese is a little different than the way you use it in English. So in English, it's I might do this, but in Portuguese, it's talvez eu vou fazer isso. It's instead of I might, it's maybe I will. And I want to wrap this up with a final message. Learn words that relate to your interests or your demographic. If you like cooking, learn the name of the ingredients. If you like fashion, learn the different names of the different articles of clothing. You should also learn the words related to your work. If you are a student, learn the names of the different subjects that if you are a student, learn the names of the different classes that you are in. If you work full-time, learn about words that are related to your field. This will allow you to effectively communicate what you do on a day-to-day basis with another individual, which allows you to become better at speaking Portuguese every time you talk with somebody. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you found it useful. Have a great day. Ciao.